Bozo finds a friend. To understand is to forgive. Bozo was an elephant who worked in a circus. He was always gentle and polite, and the children who came to the circus loved him. He would dance and turn round and round, then lie down and play that he was dead. How the children laughed to see such a big elephant dance and play dead. And, at the end of the show, he led the procession with a flag. But one day, Bozo suddenly changed. He wouldn't dance or play dead or carry the flag. 3 times in a week he tried to kill his keeper. He trumpeted angrily at the boys and girls, who wanted to give him something to eat. It seemed as though he wanted to kill them too. Nothing would make Bozo quiet and gentle again. The city officers told the owner of the circus that Bozo was a dangerous animal who must be put to death. A circus elephant costs a lot of money. So the circus owner decided to sell tickets to Bozo's execution. The owner could use the money to buy another elephant. On the Saturday morning of the execution, hundreds of people filled the big circus tent. The men who were to put Bozo to death were ready and waiting with their guns. Bozo, in his large cage, walked heavily around and around, never stopping. Now and then he lifted his trunk and trumpeted. He seemed to know what would soon be happening. Outside the cage, the ringmaster was getting ready to start Bozo's last show, his execution. Just then a little man wearing eyeglasses and a derby appeared before the circus owner.
"Wouldn't you rather keep that elephant alive?"
asked the little man.
"There isn't a chance,"
said the owner.
"He is a bad elephant. Nothing can make him well now."
"Let me go into the cage with him. In 2 minutes I will prove that you are wrong."
The owner looked at the little man sadly.
"You yourself would be dead in 3 minutes,"
he said.
"I expected you to say that."
The little man smiled.
"So I brought you a paper on which I have written that all the risk is mine."
The owner looked at the paper. He wanted to be sure it really said that the little man would take all the risk. Then he turned and told the waiting crowd the news. A fearless man would now go into the cage of the elephant. Dangerous moment. Quickly the little man took off his hat and coat.
"Now,"
he said quietly.
"you may open the door."
Bozo stopped his walking. He turned his red eyes toward the door of the cage, and stood there shaking as it opened. The little man, carrying no gun or stick, stepped inside the cage, and closed the door behind him. Bozo trumpeted with anger. But the little man began to speak gently. When the elephant heard the first words, he grew quiet but watchful. The crowd, too surprised to make a sound, could hear every word. But the people could not understand what they were hearing. Only Bozo seemed to understand the language. The great body, no longer shaking, remained still while the gentle voice went on and on. Suddenly Bozo gave a small cry, childlike and pitiful. The great head began to move from side to side. Going closer, the little man patted the long trunk. With the end of the trunk wrapped about his hand, he began to walk slowly around the cage with the elephant. The crowd could bear it no longer. The people stood and cheered. At last the little man left the cage.
"There is nothing bad about Bozo,"
he told the circus owner.
"He just wanted to be in his old home again. I talked to him in Hindustani, because he is an Indian elephant. Hindustani is the language he grew up with. It made him feel at peace again. Now he will be all right for a long time."
The little man did not seem to notice that the owner wanted to shake his hand. Perhaps he didn't want to shake hands with a man who would sell tickets to the execution of an elephant. He turned and walked away. The owner, much surprised, stood there holding the paper in his hand. Then, he looked at it again. For the first time. He noticed the name on it, and then he understood. The name was Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling was a famous English writer and poet. He was born in India and lived there with his family for many years. This little story about Kipling was first published in England in a magazine for women. Later Miss F. MacDonald of Torquay, England, wrote this to the editor of the magazine.
I am a cousin of Rudyard Kipling, and I was interested in this story. He never told me the tale, but I know of his love for animals, and I can believe that it is true. I have been with his sister to the zoo in Edinburgh, and have seen Indian elephants hurry to her, because she always spoke to them in Hindustani. They would bow to her, or trumpet with happiness,